On the subject of clients, it's very interesting, to get, your feedback on what clients are demanding now. Your head of products. What are they demanding now? How has the relationship between banks generally and their clients changed as a result of the crisis? Who is wearing the trousers these days?
Great question. I mean, I think a few things have happened. Banks for the last, 400 years have spent a lot of time thinking about the credit worthiness of their clients. I mean, obviously in the Medici period, they weren't going to look at an S&P report, but they were certainly thinking about, whether this merchant...
It was the first ever default on a loan.
First ever default, right? And then Argentina did it, every 70 years since the 1820s. But, that's obviously been a fundamental part of banking, right? Is this guy credit worthy? Is he going to pay back? Is he going to pay back on time? Is he going to pay back in full? Do I understand his business? Do I believe the premise? And now we've had this fantastically interesting reversal where now clients are looking at the credit worthiness of the financial institutions that bank them. Now, that becomes a fairly spiritually complex topic when you realize, as you mentioned before, that lots of these institutions are now state-owned. So actually you're looking at sovereign risk when you look at your banking partner in some cases, which is pretty strange. And then, of course, as a result of the crisis, some of the sovereign risk, even from large countries, looks pretty risky in some cases. So that's one piece which has changed. The other thing I think which has changed is that corporates, particularly large multinationals, are doing a few things. The first thing is they're looking at their banking relationships holistically. So the treasurer, even the CFO, even the CEO, even the chairman level wants to see a list of who do we bank with. Give me the list. I want to know everybody we have relationships with across the world.
Whereas in the past, this is something that wouldn't have concerned.
It was sort of devolved administration and people didn't care. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that people want to have a strategic view about a smaller group of let's say a balanced portfolio of banks. Again, something that corporates probably have the vast majority of corporates have never done before. To say, look, we like these guys because they're really strong in Europe, and we want these guys because they're really strong in the States, and we want these guys because they're a regional player and they're perhaps less buffeted by, global economic winds. And so I think people are putting together a portfolio of banks that bank them according to some strategic
bigger
principles.
Banking groups. Smaller banking
usually
groups.
Usually bigger, although not always. Sometimes people purposefully incorporate a mixture of big and small because they view that it's risk mitigation.
And, I mean, this is a trust issue at the end of the day. You can't invest money and buy back trust, I suppose. What other things, can banks do to change these attitudes that have sort of hardened with clients now that you've just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough, right? I don't think there's any panacea. And as I said, we're in an enviable position, I would say, with Deutsche. But I think it is very difficult. And that's why, frankly, for Deutsche Bank, it is a very unique opportunity to hit the accelerator because that's a period that's not months, it's maybe not even years, it's maybe decades. It's careers that it will take to repair the damage of the crisis. I think that's true. But I think the other point that's also worth mentioning is that as turbulent and horrible, and in many ways as turbulent and horrible as parts of it continue to be, the core transaction banking payment systems around the world never failed. So regardless of which bank, regardless of which country, nobody ever was in a situation where they stuck their card into a cash point and couldn't get money out. We didn't have, even with the collapse of Lehman and the nationalization or near nationalization of many institutions, the money continued to flow. So, if Company A wanted to move, 800 million euros to Company B, they were able to get it done. Yeah. As frozen and complex as liquidity was, payment still flowed and trade still got done. Obviously, at reduced volumes, the risk premia that were paid on trade products, soared because of everybody's lack of trust in the market. But, export still happened, import still happened, and the kind of fundamental engine kept going. And, nobody ever talks about that. It's obviously, popular in the press, both in the consumer press or in the sort of specialist financial press to lambaste all these institutions. And, I guess we're all worthy of some, deserving of some lambasting. But I think it's also, interesting to note that for all of the fears, the mechanics, the mechanism that underpins the economy globally continued to work.
Yeah.
So in many ways, it's proven to be unbelievably resilient against shocks that were completely unanticipated, that were 2-3 standard deviation events that nobody had in any of their models. So,
but sometimes by the skin of our teeth, as it were.
Look, there were late nights and
Yeah.
and scary Sunday mornings, and for sure. And I think as I talk to colleagues at Citi or JPM and other firms, you hear pretty tough stories. But I think the important message for the world is that we did all keep it moving.
But you mentioned before some of your bigger clients. There's been a lot of talk lately, particularly with the PSD, about some of the bigger clients perhaps taking payments in-house. How do banks stop them doing this, or is this inevitable? Or
Well, look, I think the first thing is I would say that the largest of the large multinationals, and there are a number that come to mind that are clients of ours, where the way they run themselves, they become bank-like, right? And so I was sitting down in the States a few weeks ago with a treasurer of a Fortune 50 company, and they want to build an in-house bank, and we're going to work with them to help them do that. There are parts of that they can do. There are parts of it that they can't do. They are not a bank, so
it's an opportunity then.
Yeah, I think it's an opportunity if you embrace it. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to do. It means that you have to be comfortable not just flogging product and acting as an advisor and a consultant, and that's something that we do very comfortably, but I'm not sure that every institution would be.